My name is Adelaide Mercer Quinn, and I'm 63 years old. If you're watching this story right now, I need you to understand something important. The day I buried my husband was the day I discovered he'd been living a lie that nearly destroyed me. But this isn't just about betrayal. This is about how a widow in mourning became the woman who brought down an entire criminal empire. I was standing beside Thuron's closed casket when my phone vibrated in my black clutch. The chapel smelled of lilies and grief. My daughter Emma held my left hand, while my son Michael stood rigid on my right. I thought the message was another condolence text from a distant relative. It wasn't. The name on my screen made my heart skip. Vesper Langford, Thuron's boss at Meridian Financial Group. In 32 years of marriage, Vesper had never once called me directly. His message was brief and chilling. Adelaide, step outside immediately. There's something you must see, tell no one. I excused myself quietly, telling Emma I needed air. The November wind bit through my morning dress as I walked toward the chapel parking lot. Vesper stood beside a black sedan, his silver hair perfectly combed despite the weather. He wore a charcoal suit and an expression I'd never seen on him before. Fear. He handed me a tablet without greeting or explanation. His hands trembled slightly as he pressed play on a video file. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 3 days before Thuron's death. My husband appeared on screen, kneeling on a concrete floor in what looked like a storage room. His face was bruised, his shirt was torn. A woman's voice spoke from off-camera. Cold and precise, sign it Thuron, or your wife pays the price, everything you've built, everything she believes about you. I'll destroy it all. I watched my husband sob and sign a document I couldn't see clearly. The video ended abruptly. My legs felt weak. I gripped the car door to steady myself. Vesper's voice cut through my shock. That document he signed transfers ownership of assets that legally belong to both of you. He forfeited your retirement accounts, your home equity, everything. I couldn't breathe. My throat constricted with a mix of grief and rising fury. Who is that woman? I demanded. Vesper hesitated, then showed me a second file on the tablet. A personnel photo appeared. The woman was elegant, mid-30s with sharp features and intelligent eyes. Her name was listed as Marielle Sutter, executive assistant to the compliance director. She worked closely with Thuron for the past 18 months. Vesper explained, after he died, she started acting nervous, paranoid. Yesterday, someone attempted to wipe our entire server system. He paused, his expression grave. Adelaide, your husband wasn't just blackmailed. He was murdered, and someone is trying to frame you as an accomplice. The word murdered echoed in my skull. Thuron had died of a supposed heart attack at his desk. The doctors said his heart simply gave out from stress and years of high blood pressure. There was no autopsy, because I'd been too devastated to question anything. Now Vesper was telling me my husband had been killed, and I was being set up to take blame for crimes I knew nothing about. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Why risk your position to warn me? Vesper looked toward the chapel where my husband's body lay. Because Thuron was my friend before he was my employee. And because they've already prepared documents with your forged signature. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed it to me. Inside was a legal confession stating I'd been aware of and participated in financial fraud schemes at Meridian Financial. My signature appeared at the bottom, but I'd never seen this document before in my life. I studied the forged signature carefully. Someone had practiced my handwriting, copied the way I looped my capital A and crossed my lowercase t. This wasn't a rushed job, this was calculated. Professional, terrifying. They're preparing to destroy you publicly. Vesper continued, the fraud investigation is already underway. When they announce findings, your name will be included unless we act first. My mind raced through implications. Our children's reputations would be ruined. Our grandchildren would grow up with the shame. Everything Thuron and I built over 3 decades would crumble. But something inside me shifted in that moment. The grief that had been crushing me transformed into something sharper. Clearer, rage mixed with purpose. I'd spent my entire adult life as a devoted wife, a careful steward of our family's dignity. Now someone thought they could use my loyalty and my grief as weapons against me. They were wrong. I want to see everything. I told Vesper, every file, every email, every piece of evidence you have. Vesper drove me to Meridian Financial's headquarters in downtown Hartford. The building was nearly empty on a Saturday afternoon. We took a private elevator to the executive floor, where Vesper's corner office overlooked the city. He locked the door behind us and opened his computer. For the next hour, he showed me documents that painted a horrifying picture. Meridian Financial had been systematically stealing from employee pension funds for at least 5 years. The scheme involved shell companies, offshore accounts, and falsified audit reports. Thuron had discovered the fraud 6 months ago while reviewing quarterly statements. Instead of staying silent, he'd started collecting evidence. Your husband was trying to be a whistleblower. Vesper explained. He documented everything, built an airtight case, but before he could report it, they found out what he was doing. The people behind the fraud were high-ranking executives in the company's high-risk compliance division, known internally as HRC. Vesper pulled up an organizational chart showing the HRC division structure. At the top was a name I recognized from company holiday parties. Victoria Hale, Senior Vice President of Operations. She was a woman in her early 50s, always impeccably dressed, known for her ruthless efficiency. Beneath her name were 3 directors, including someone named Callum Vance, who oversaw internal investigations. Victoria runs HRC like her own private kingdom. Vesper said she has the authority to access any employee's files, freeze accounts, even authorize surveillance. When Thuron started asking questions, she noticed immediately. I stared at Victoria's photo on the screen. I'd met her twice at corporate functions. She'd complimented my dress, both times with a smile that never reached her eyes. How did Marielle Sutter fit into this? I asked. Vesper's expression darkened. That's the part I'm still trying to understand. Marielle was Thuron's assistant, but she reported directly to HRC. I think she was planted to watch him. Before Vesper could explain further, his office door handle rattled. Someone was trying to enter. We both froze. The rattling stopped, followed by the sound of a keycard being swiped. The electronic lock beeped red. Denied. Vesper quickly closed all the files on his computer and stood. We need to leave now, he whispered urgently. If they know you're here, they'll accelerate their plans. We exited through a back stairwell and emerged in the parking garage. My heart pounded as we reached Vesper's car. Just as I opened the passenger door, I noticed something tucked under the windshield wiper. A white envelope with my name, written in elegant script across the front. Vesper grabbed it before I could touch it. He opened the envelope carefully, using a tissue to avoid leaving fingerprints. Inside was a single photograph. It showed me entering Vesper's office building 15 minutes earlier. Someone had been watching us the entire time. The message was clear. They knew I was investigating. They knew Vesper was helping me. We were both now targets. Vesper drove me back to the funeral home, where my family was surely wondering where I'd disappeared to. Before I got out of the car, he handed me a burner phone. Keep this hidden, he instructed. I'll contact you only on this number. Don't trust anyone else, not even people you think are on your side. I tucked the phone into my coat pocket and returned to the chapel. Emma rushed over immediately, concern written across her face. Mom, where were you? We've been looking everywhere. I lied smoothly, blaming grief and needing a long walk. The rest of the funeral passed in a blur. I shook hands with colleagues and neighbors who offered empty condolences. I watched them lower Thuron's casket into frozen ground. And through it all, I studied every face, wondering who knew the truth about my husband's death. That night, alone in the house I'd shared with Thuron for 3 decades. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Every shadow seemed threatening. At 2:47 a.m., the burner phone Vesper gave me vibrated with a text message. Check your husband's study, bottom drawer of his desk. Look for a false panel. I wrapped myself in a robe and crept downstairs to Thuron's study. The room still smelled like his cologne and old books. His reading glasses sat on the desk, where he'd left them the morning he died. I opened the bottom drawer carefully. It was filled with files and office supplies. Nothing unusual. But when I removed everything and examined the drawer closely, I found it, a thin seam along the bottom panel that didn't quite match the wood grain. I pried it open with a letter opener. Inside was a small metal lockbox, secured with a combination lock. I tried Thuron's birthday, our anniversary. The children's birthdays, nothing worked. Then, I remembered something he'd told me years ago. When we first married, he joked that if he ever needed to hide something from me, he'd use the date we met because I never remembered it correctly. I tried that date. The lock clicked open. Inside the box were 3 items. a flash drive, a small notebook filled with Thuron's handwriting, and a keycard with his initials engraved on the edge. I plugged the flash drive into Thuron's computer. It contained hundreds of scanned documents, financial records showing money transfers from Meridian's pension fund to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. The amounts were staggering. Over 5 years, nearly $400 million had been stolen from employees who thought their retirements were secure. Thuron had documented everything with dates, account numbers, and the names of everyone involved. The evidence was devastating and complete. The notebook was even more disturbing. Thuron had kept a journal of the past 6 months, documenting his investigation and the threats he'd received. One entry from 3 weeks before his death made my blood run cold. They know I copied the files. Marielle warned me they're planning something. She says Victoria wants me eliminated, but she's trying to protect me. I don't know if I can trust her, but she's my only ally inside HRC. If something happens to me, Adelaide needs to know the truth. I've left clues for her. I just hope she's strong enough to finish what I started. My hands shook as I read his words. Thuron had known he was in danger. He'd known they might kill him, and he'd prepared for that possibility by leaving me evidence. But he'd also mentioned Marielle as someone trying to help him. Was she truly an ally, or was this another layer of deception? The burner phone buzzed again. Another message from Vesper. Marielle Sutter didn't show up for work today. Her apartment is empty. I think she's running. I texted back quickly, or someone took her. 3 dots appeared, showing Vesper was typing. Then they disappeared. No response came. I tried calling the burner number he'd used to text me. It rang once, then disconnected. A wave of fear washed over me. Something had happened to Vesper. I was now completely alone in this fight. I gathered the flash drive, notebook, and keycard and hid them in a location I knew no one would think to search. Then I called Emma and told her I'd be staying with my sister in Boston for a few days to grieve privately. I didn't have a sister in Boston, but Emma didn't know that. I needed to disappear before they made their next move against me. I drove north out of Hartford at dawn, constantly checking my rearview mirror for anyone following. I'd withdrawn $5,000 in cash from an ATM, knowing credit cards could be traced. My destination was a small cabin in Vermont that Thuron and I had rented years ago for anniversary trips. The owners were an elderly couple who didn't use computers or keep digital records. It was as close to off the grid as I could get. The cabin was exactly as I remembered, isolated at the end of a dirt road surrounded by pine trees. I settled in and began organizing everything I knew. Thuron's evidence proved the fraud. His journal named Victoria Hale as the ringleader. The keycard likely accessed something at Meridian Financial, though I didn't know what yet. But I was missing pieces. What had happened to Marielle? Was she dead, hiding, or working with them? And what had they done to Vesper after our last communication? On my 3rd day at the cabin, I heard a car approaching. I grabbed a kitchen knife and positioned myself near the door. Heart hammering, the car stopped. A door opened and closed. Footsteps crunched through snow toward the cabin. Then a voice called out, quiet but clear. "Mrs. Quinn, I know you're in there. My name is Callum Vance. I worked with your husband. Please, I need to talk to you." "I'm not armed, Callum Vance." The name from the HRC organizational chart. The Director of Internal Investigations. He was one of Victoria's people. I gripped the knife tighter. "How did you find me?" I called through the door. "Your husband told me about this place before he died. He said if anything happened to him, you might come here, Mrs. Quinn. I'm the one who's been helping Vesper feed you information. Please let me in, we don't have much time." I opened the door cautiously, keeping the knife visible. Callum Vance was a tall man in his late 40s with gray-streaked hair and tired eyes. He held his hands up, showing me he was unarmed. 5 minutes, I said. Explain why I shouldn't call the police right now. He entered slowly and sat at the small kitchen table. "I've been working undercover for the FBI for 18 months. He began. "We've been investigating the pension fraud at Meridian Financial. Your husband discovered our operation accidentally when he started his own investigation. Instead of compromising our case, he agreed to work with us." My mind reeled. Thuron had been working with the FBI. We were close to making arrests. Callum continued, but Victoria found out Thuron was collecting evidence. She ordered his death before he could testify. The heart attack was induced using a chemical that's nearly impossible to detect in an autopsy. My grief transformed into pure rage. They'd murdered him, deliberately, coldly. Callum pulled out his FBI credentials and a thick folder. "We need your husband's flash drive and journal," he said. "That evidence, combined with what we've already gathered, is enough to arrest Victoria and everyone involved. But we need to move fast. Victoria knows you have it, and she's ordered her people to find you." I studied his credentials carefully. They looked legitimate, but I'd learned not to trust anything. "What happened to Vesper Langford?" I asked. Callum's expression darkened. "He's in protective custody. Victoria's people tried to kill him 2 days ago. He barely survived." Relief flooded through me. Vesper was alive, and Marielle Sutter. I pressed. "Marielle is also FBI." Callum revealed. "She was assigned to watch Thuron. But she fell in love with him. Not romantically, just admiration for his integrity. When Victoria ordered the hit, Marielle tried to warn him. She's been in hiding since his death because Victoria wants her dead too." I handed Callum the flash drive and journal. He examined them carefully, then made a phone call. Within an hour, 3 FBI agents arrived at the cabin with a full tactical team. They explained the plan. Tomorrow morning, they would execute coordinated raids on Victoria Hale's home, Meridian Financial Headquarters, and 6 other locations. My testimony and Thuron's evidence would be the cornerstone of the prosecution. But they needed me to do one more thing. "Victoria doesn't know we're this close," Callum explained. "We need you to call her directly. Tell her you're willing to sign whatever documents she wants in exchange for being left alone. When she agrees to meet you, we'll be there to arrest her." It was dangerous. Victoria was desperate and violent. But I thought about Thuron, about the pension money stolen from innocent employees, about Vesper nearly dying. I agreed to make the call. The next morning, I called Victoria Hale from a secured FBI line. She answered on the second ring, her voice smooth and professional. "Adelaide, I've been hoping to hear from you." I kept my voice shaky, defeated. "I just want this to end, whatever Thuron was involved in. I don't care, I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. Just leave me and my children alone." Victoria's pause felt calculated. "I'm glad you're being reasonable. Meet me at Meridian Financial tonight at 8. Come alone and bring Thuron's files. Once we have everything, you'll never hear from us again." She was lying. I could hear it in her voice. She planned to kill me the moment I arrived. But that was exactly what the FBI wanted. When I arrived at Meridian Financial that evening, wearing a wire and surrounded by undercover agents, Victoria was waiting in the executive conference room. She smiled warmly when I entered, but her eyes were cold as ice. Victoria gestured to a chair. "You made the right choice." "Adelaide," I sat down slowly. Playing my role, "I just want peace." She placed documents in front of me. "Sign these and everything disappears." But before I could touch the papers, Callum Vance and a dozen FBI agents burst through the doors. "Victoria Hale, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and embezzlement." Victoria's face transformed from smug confidence to pure fury. She lunged toward me, but agents restrained her immediately. As they read her rights, I stood and faced her directly. "My husband died trying to stop you," I said quietly, "but his widow finished the job." The FBI arrested 17 people that night. The stolen pension money was recovered and returned to employees. Thuron's name was cleared completely, recognized as a hero who'd given his life to expose corruption. At his memorial service weeks later, I stood before hundreds of people and told them the truth about the man I'd loved. Vesper spoke, his voice still weak from his injuries. Marielle attended, sitting in the back, tears streaming down her face. And I finally found peace, knowing Thuron's death hadn't been in vain. Justice had been served, but as I left the memorial, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Your husband had one more secret. Ask Callum about Project Nightingale." My blood ran cold, even in victory. Shadows remained, some truths I was about to discover were buried deeper than I'd ever imagined. And my fight wasn't over yet. I learned that grief doesn't break you. It introduces you to the truth. Thuron didn't die a villain. He died trying to protect the people he loved from a darkness much larger than any of us knew. And those who mocked me, threatened me, and tried to silence me, they watched everything they built crumble because they underestimated a quiet woman with nothing left to lose and proof in her hands. I didn't fight them with rage. I fought them with clarity, evidence, and wisdom. The very things they never expected from a widow. They assumed would stay silent. So here I stand, not just Thuron's wife, but the woman who finished what he started. Justice came, truth won, and peace, after everything, finally found me. But if this entire journey taught me one thing, it's this. Never fear the truth. Fear the people who try to bury it. And now, to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? Let's tell it together. Here on this channel, your voice matters. If you have a personal story, a revenge moment, a betrayal twist, or even an idea that you think would make our narratives sharper, more emotional, or more entertaining, share it with us. Tell us what themes you want more of. What twists keep you hooked? What parts of our stories hit you the hardest? Or what you'd love to hear next? Drop your thoughts, stories, and suggestions in the comments below. Let's build this amazing community together, one powerful story at a time. Your story could be the next one featured. Don't be shy, we're listening. And we would always respond. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more satisfying stories like this.